rotation of the Earth about its axis during the day, revolution of the Moon around the Earth, and revolution of the Earth around the Sun. The Jewish calendar is the official calendar of Israel and is still used to establish dates for religious observances and feasts. The Gregorian calendar is also used. Holidays are celebrated on the same day of the Jewish calendar every year, but since the Jewish calendar is different than the Gregorian calendar, the dates of the holidays appear to shift. So, we celebrated in the New Year is the feast of Rosh Hashanah in September or early October, also gravitating around the autumnal equinox, but it's a movable feast. We have in 753 BCE, the earliest Roman calendar was established by Romulus and consisted of 10 months, averaging 29.5 days per month, and an extended intercalary period. Romans originally observed the start of the new year in March, celebrating new life in spring. In 703 BCE, it was improved by Numa Pompilius, and Januarius and Februarius were added to the beginning of the year. December, the 10th month, therefore became the 12th month. 12 months with 355 days plus an intercalary period. In 45 BC, the Julian calendar, Julius Caesar introduced significant calendar reforms, aligned the solar year with lunar cycles with leap years every third year. Reform took place on January 1st, 45 of BCE, changing the beginning of the new year to January 1st. And it was adopted throughout most of the Roman Empire. In 800 BCE, the Julian calendar, Caesar Augustus further reformed the calendar, the leap year corrected to every fourth year, imperial indiction observed on September 23rd in 3 BC, and the indiction marked the start of a new year of taxes and military services, and used throughout the Roman Empire. When we look at Eastern, at the early Christianity, the church adopted the Julian calendar. You had 11 minutes and 15-second annual error. There was a discrepancy between the calendar and the solar year, and this was soon recognized as a problem in the timing of the vernal equinox ends. In 1582, we have the establishment of the Gregorian calendar. The church corrects the cumulative errors. The Gregorian calendar became effective October 15, 1582, and the corrected calendar by adding 10 days. Eventually accepted by most nations, but not immediately by all societies of all Christians. In early Christianity, we had Emperor Constantine. September 1st was recognized as the beginning of God's creation of the world, Genesis 1st. It was the beginning of Christ's public ministry and the beginning of the liturgical year, ecclesiastical year. So we have, there we are. The indiction is celebrated by the Church of God from the ancients because it was thought to be the beginning of the time from this day. We have the banal opinion of Basil II in the 10th century. Therefore, the first day of September is also a defining month and the beginning of the whole year. September 1st represents the day of creation, when God began the creation of the universe. It symbolizes the expression of in the beginning, found in Genesis, and the day when God said, "Let there be light." Regarding the liturgical year for most visiting Catholics and Orthodox churches, the ecclesial year will start on September 1st. In the 9th century, the Roman Catholic Church started observing the start of the liturgical year on the first Sunday of Advent. In the Byzantine world, creation era calendar, Uno Mundi system was used by the ecumenical patriarch from the 7th to the 18th century, and it stipulated that the cosmos was created on September 1st of 5509 BC with calculations on the Septuagint. In spite of the various adjustments, the Orthodox Church maintains September 1st as the beginning of the liturgical year, and the same applies to the Byzantine Catholic churches. We have in our liturgical prayers, particularly from authors here, some of the prayers that celebrate the beginning of the year. O Word of the Father from before the ages, who, being in the form of God, brought his creation into being out of nothing. Thou who hast put the times and seasons in thy own power. Bless the crown of the year with thy goodness. Give peace unto the churches, victory unto the faithful hierarchs, faithfulness unto the earth, and great mercy upon us. And here is another example of prayers taken from our services. Creator of the universe, setting times and seasons by you, by your sole authority, bless the cycle of the year of your grace, O Lord, guarding our rulers and your nation in peace at the intercession of your Theotokos, and save us. Or you who created all things in your infinite wisdom and set the times by your authority, grant your Christian people victories, blessings and our comings and goings throughout this year, guide our works according to your divine will. Let's take a look at the signs of the times, the ancient tradition, and what's happening now. The institution of the World Day of Prayer for Creation was started by the Ecumenical Patriarch Demetrius in September 1st of 1989. It's found in our program. We invite, through our patriarchal message, the entire Christian world to offer every year on this day prayers and supplications to the Maker of all, both as thanksgiving for the great gift of creation and as petitions for its protection and salvation. We also had, at the Conference of the European Churches and European Bishops in 1997, recommendations following the example of the Ecumenical Patriarch to promote the celebration of the common feast of creation. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines in 2003. Today, September 1st, in many parts of the world, Christian churches are celebrating the creation. In this slide here, and this section of the presentation is put together by the World Council of Churches. We have the World Council of Churches adopting the World Day of Prayer in 2008, and then we have the Catholic Church starting off with, in 2015, and the wonderful encyclical of the Doctorate. We have the annual statements of high-level leaders, and then a growing grassroots momentum. Here are samples of Pope Francis publishes official annual messages for Creation Day, nourishing grassroots participation. I also put here that in 1940, shortly before his death in a Soviet prison camp, Photo-Presbyter Gregory Petrov composed the ECOTHEE service of thanksgiving to God for grace and creation and gift. And this service here, I got a few copies that I brought, you can have, and it's this ECOTHEE hymn that we use in our Ukrainian Catholic Eparchies on Creation Day services. Just to understand a little bit about this significance from the Creation Day, from the Eastern mystical tradition, our worldwide leaders called his attention to the ecological and social situation, was able to discern the signs of the times. His All-Holiness, Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew, has, quote, persistently proclaimed the primacy of the spiritual values in determining environmental ethics and actions. We are sincerely indebted to him for his spiritual leadership and pioneering initiatives. For Eastern Christian theologians, the concern of the environment is not only a form of superficial or sentimental love, it is a way of honoring and dignifying the reality of our creation by the hand and word of God. It is as well a way of respecting, quote, the mourning of the land, found in Hosea, and heeding the groaning of creation. The broad vision of the Eastern Church is that creation is the work of the divine love by the Holy Trinity. I quoted Archbishop Joseph Wright, an Eastern Catholic Archbishop, who often stated that we come from the heart of God, we live in the heart of God, and we go back to the heart of God. Creation is seen as a Trinitarian process, which means that all is relationally and independently oriented. The cosmos is a coherent whole in which all elements are united and interrelated. We are part of the stars, as we were taught when we were children. Creation is seen as an ongoing Trinitarian process and is a very suitable representation of the cosmos and very relevant today. The idea of relationships and interdependencies and continuous creation are synchronized with the postmodern interpretation of evolution in contemporary science. Contemporary theologians use panentheism. From the standpoint of the Eastern Church, this implies that God is in everything and all of creation is in God. So God is both transcendent and immanent, present in all things. We have this thought when we go back to our patristic traditions and we look at just a couple of quotes from St. Athanasius, who teaches that no part of creation is left void of him. He has filled all things everywhere. Or St. John of Damascus, who stated that the whole earth is a living icon of God. Creation, thus, is a continuous event in which God constantly guides, protects, sustains, and perfects his creation. In the first place, when it is said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, the word beginning is not to be interpreted in a temporal sense. Creation is not a once-for-all event, making in a remote past, but God is, quoted by Calvinist word, God is making the world, and you and me in it, here and now, at this moment and always. This is important because this firmly establishes that creation is sacred, because it is imbued with God and therefore is to be treated with reverence. Secondly, there is a convergence between panentheistic vision of God active in the world through his energies and a scientific perspective on the capabilities of matter. The Orthodox physicist and theologian Christopher Knight quotes Vladimir Lossky's statement that, quote, the earth, created in order that it might be deified, is dynamic, tending always to its final, and observes that this concept of an intrinsically dynamic universe immediately has a strong resonance for those who acknowledge the validity of modern scientific perception of the universe's evolutionary development. Thirdly, it is a frequent fault of religious writers that they speak of the created universe as if it were an artifact of a maker who has produced it from without. God, the creator, becomes a celestial clockmaker who sets the cosmos process in motion, winding the clock, but then leaving it continue ticking on its own. It is important to avoid such an image as the divine architect, builder, and engineer, and to speak in terms of indwelling. Creation is not something upon which God acts from the outside, but something through which he expresses himself from within. Transcendent, he is also immanent, above and beyond creation. He is also its inwardness is within. So from the cosmos to our planet, child, we grew up understanding that the first book about God was the book of nature. And we were taught that we need to learn to read the book of nature, for it bears the imprint of God. Job invites his friends to seek truth beyond their prized philosophy. But ask the beasts, and they will teach you, the birds of the air, and they will tell you, or the plants of the earth, and they will teach you, and the fish of the sea will declare to you, who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this. Or we find in Proverbs, the prophet Agur speaks of the wisdom of ants, badgers, locusts, and lizards. The book of nature continued as Eastern Christians and eventually, early Christians and eventually Eastern Christians would have explained that they learned about the interconnectedness of all creatures from the book of nature, through the idea that the book of nature can provide revelations on spiritual matters may seem foreign to some. It is an ancient tradition of the church. Regarding God's great love for humanity, we see that God's great goodness could not be represented and could not be shared or understood in just one creature, in just one plant or tree, or in one species, nor exclusively in humanity, but rather in our entire beautiful world. There is such magnificent diversity in creation and in the universe as a whole. There is a manifold goodness in nature, the absolute fullness of God's grace and goodness. Isaac the Syrian states that the entire world was created by God out of immeasurable love and compassion. For instance, such a view in patristic teachings of the animal kingdom or world is seen as sensitive and an instinctive reflection of God's creation and God's love, which is based firmly on the Bible. All creations participate in worship, and I quote, "And I hear every creature in heaven and on earth, and under the earth and in the sea, and all therein saying, to him who sits upon the throne, and to the Lamb and honor and glory and might forever and ever." Our pathological relationship with the rest of creation has been focused by two primary positions. Humanity sees itself as separate from the rest of creation, and that humanity has lost respect for the sacredness of creation. We forget that all creation is loved by God. The mystical traditions are influenced by divine eminence and thereby awaken us to the community of God's creation, which is modeled on the relationship of the Trinity. St. Basil the Great informs us of an integral ecology that rejects any sense that the human is separate from the rest of creation. The question of anthropocentrism, the human being is as center of, is to make an idol of ourselves. Eastern Christian teaching is that the human being can never be the center of creation. We are, however, intended to be a focal point and a midpoint. So I'm going to have to go a little bit ahead because my time is running out. Regarding salvation, the Eastern Church teaches the human salvation involves also the reconciliation and transfiguration of the whole animate and inanimate creation around him. It's deliverance from bondage of corruption and the entry into the glories of the liberty of the children of God. So we are taught, and I quote Callistus Ware, "There is surely a place not only for man but for animals. In and through man they too will share in immortality, and so will the rocks, trees and plants, fire and water." To conclude, the Eastern Christian thought has been freed from any view of the degradation of matter. Peace and harmony with the totality of creation are essential features features of the Eastern Church. The Church, if it is to be true to its vocation, bringing humanity and the entire cosmos to God, must present alternatives and philosophies that protect the dignity of God. The value of creation is seen not only in the fact that it is intrinsically good, but also in the fact that it is appointed by God to be the home of all living beings. The value of the natural creation is revealed in the fact that it is made for God to be the context of God's incarnation and all of humankind's deification. The cosmos is the stage upon which humankind moves from creation to deification. Ultimately, however, the whole creation is destined to become a transfigured world. The salvation of humankind involves the salvation of its natural home and cosmos. All Eastern churches were told in Orientium, Ecclesiam, decree of the Eastern Catholic churches, that we are to preserve our traditions and way of life, and if history has imposed changes on them, they should take steps to return to their ancestral traditions. The decree, this is found in the decree of the Eastern Catholic churches. In the Laudato Si, Pope Francis encouraged us to return to the patristic traditions of our church. Through their charisms, the Roman and the Eastern Catholic churches may respond in complementary fashion to the ecological and environmental concerns. It is critical to recognize the unique contributions and potentials of both Western and Eastern traditions so that the world can draw upon and integrate the full breadth of the theological traditions in the understanding of God's vision for all of creation. Thank you very much.